Hi there and welcome to my channel. In this video I'm covering the topic of simultaneous equations and we're doing elimination method. Now for those of you who have seen my other videos, you would see that I already did one on elimination method. However, in this particular one I want to do questions that are a lot more challenging. Questions that involve fractions and those sorts of things even before we get into solving them simultaneously. So I would say that this topic is covered usually in Form 4 or in Form 5 and it's done in math as well as in math. So please stay tuned for my few questions and their detailed solutions with explanations. So this is our first sum. So it says solve these two equations. So we have two unknowns. It's x and a y and an x and a y. So whatever value of x, it must correspond to these two equations and similarly with y. That's why we call them simultaneous equations because they exist at the same time. So for me to start all these steps here, the first thing I need to do is to simplify my equations. So I'll just take the first equation like this and I will simplify. Now simplifying just means I'm going to make it look a lot easier than what it is, right? Now by just glancing at this, I'm seeing that the denominators are 3, 5, and 3. So the LCM here is 15. So I could multiply this entire equation by 15. So it would be 15 by 7 like that, 15 by this. And even though it seems monotonous, it's always nice to write out these steps. So this becomes 5. So 5 by this would be 35x minus 5. This becomes 3. And this becomes 50. So look how lovely this looks now. 35x minus 6y. That's what? Minus 14. Sending it over becomes a positive 14. So that will be 64. And from here now, I could call this equation 1. Right, so nice. This has now been converted to this, calling it equation 1. Now, let me do the same for the second equation. My second equation now, simplifying, I'll just write it over. Right, so I'm seeing my denominators are 4, 5, and 5. LCM is 20. So I'll multiply each thing by 20. So each section I'll multiply. Now you don't need to really do this, like write it out like this, but it's always helpful to do this because you see all the steps, and you don't make mistakes when you write it out like that. So you get plus y, 12y minus 8, 4, 16 by 4, 64. Right, and now simplifying. This would be 2, send it over, it will become a minus 2, so it will be 62. So that, everyone, means that this second equation really is the same as writing this. So how lovely is that? So now I could start with these steps here. So let me move on to that part. So since we're using method of elimination, I need to look at my coefficients, right? So this is 35 and 25, they're different. 6 and 12, different. So we check the coefficients of x to see if they're the same, or y, right? If they're not the same, we move on and so on, right? So I've done this already, gone through these steps in detail for my last video. So I just want to show you this. What happens here now? We have 6 and 12. I like these numbers because it's easy to make this number 12, right? Simply by multiplying this whole equation by 2. So what I can do, I think I'm going to manipulate this first equation so that I will get the same y values here, right? Or at least the same digit. The digit will be 12. So I'll take equation 1 and multiply by 2. We get 35 by 2, that is 70x minus 12y, and 64 by 2 is 128. So I'll call this equation 3. Now writing back equation 2 here, I'll get this. Right, so that's equation 2. So we're done with this. Now if we have the same, right, what they're saying here is that if we have the same number but different signs, then we add same number but different signs. So it's same 12 and 12, but they're different signs. One is a negative and one is a positive. So what this means, I'm going to add, and that means I'm adding vertically. So that simply means this is one sum here. So 70 plus 25, that's 95x. Nice. This adding this here will give us 0y, so I don't need to write that. And 128 plus 62, that's 190. Right? So now I can just solve for x. 190, 195, that works out to be 2. Sorry, 2. So I know x is 2. So now let me substitute x is equal to 2 into, I could say, equation 1. So I will 35 by 2 minus 6y is 64. 35 by 2, that's 70. So I'll get minus 6y is 64 minus 70. Minus 6y is minus 6. Y is minus 6 on minus 6, which is 1. So that, everyone, gives us our answers for number 1, which is x is 2 and y is 1. So now I've gone to my second question, right? So again, we have two simultaneous equations, and the instruction is to just solve, right? So we have two unknowns, x and y, and the difficulty with this particular question is because of the fractions, right? Other than that, everything else is pretty straightforward. So I like how this looks, but I want to manipulate this one. So this is what I'll do. 1/5 x plus 1 on 3 y is equal to 6 on 5. 3, 5, and, well, 5, 3, and 5. LCM is 15. Right now, I just want you to know 1/5 x is the same as x on 5. You don't need to write the 1, right? But anyway, in this particular sum they wrote it, so I'll just continue with that. So if I multiply the entire equation by 15, I will get 15 here by 1/5 x plus 15 by this, 15 by that. So I will get this. This would be 3, and this would be 18. So lovely. This line now becomes 3x plus 5y is equal to 18. So this is what I will work with. So what I intend to do now, I will just write this over here. 5x minus 2y is equal to minus 1. Call this equation 1 and call this equation 2. So now we can start with these steps here. We check the coefficients of x and the coefficients of y. They're both different, okay? So if they're different here, now what I could do, there's 5 and 3, and there's minus 2 and 5. So you really need, it's your personal preference if you want to choose the x or the y, because both of them will involve the same amount of work. So I think honestly, let me just choose the x. So the LCM here again will be 15. So say I take equation 1 and I multiply by 3, I'll get a 15x here. And if I took equation 2 and I multiply by 5, I'll get a 15x here. So let me do that now. Equation 1 multiplied by 3 gives me 15x minus 6y is equal to minus 3. Call that equation 3. Equation 2 multiplied by 5 now, that gives me 15x plus 5 by 5 is 25y is equal to 18 by 5 would be 90. So I'll put 90 here. Call that equation 4. So now they say down here, if we have the same sign, then we minus. Same number and same sign. So I've covered this step, if we have the same, we minus, right? So minusing means we are doing it vertically, right? The sums are going to be vertical, so it's going to be like this. This is one sum here, sorry about that. And then it's going to be like this as well, minusing, and then it's going to be lastly like that. So 15x minus 15x would be 0x. I don't need to write that. Minus 6y minus plus 25 would be this. Minus plus 25y, which is really minus 6y minus 25y, which will be minus 31y. Minus 3 minus 90 be minus 3 minus 90, which is minus 93. So we get minus 93 here. So we get this over minus 31. They will cancel. And that answer ends up being 3. So lovely. Y is 3. So lastly, I say substitute y 3 into equation 1. So we get 5x minus 2 by 3 minus 1, is equal to minus 1. So we get 5x minus 6 is equal to minus 1. So 5x is equal to minus 1 plus 6. 5x is equal to 5. So x is equal to 5 divided by 5, 1. So this means, everyone, that I have my answer for number 2, which is x is 1 and y is 3. So, and again, checking over, we see that we have completed everything here, right? So, thank you everyone for tuning in, and I hope that you understand this. I hope this video brings some sort of clarity to these sorts of questions, and you realize that it's really, really not that difficult. Okay, thanks guys.